The fire in the drawing room has been out for 2 hours, long enough that the cold has come back into the room the way it always does, settling first along the floor, then rising, reclaiming the chairs, the carpet, the air, above the dead grate. The house is silent in the particular way a large house is silent at night, which is not silence at all, but a layering of small sounds too quiet to notice during the day. A clock somewhere below, the settling of a beam, wind finding the gap under a door that has been closed for the night. To anyone looking up at it from the road, this house is asleep, every window dark, the family withdrawn, the day finished and put away. The day is not finished. In the rooms below the ground floor, in the cold at the top of the back stairs, in a nursery where a lamp is still burning, the house is still working. It will work through most of the night. The warmth the family will wake into, the clean grate, the hot water, the ordered rooms that will look in the morning as though they had simply always been that way. All of it is being made right now, in the dark, by people the family will never see do it. A Victorian house was 2 houses, one that was shown and one that was hidden. During the day the two were held carefully apart by walls and doors and staircases built for exactly that purpose. At night, when the performance stopped, the separation thinned. The house began to give itself away. Tonight, the hours between the last light and the first, the doors being locked from the inside, the fires being banked, the woman upstairs who cannot sleep, and the girl downstairs who is not allowed to yet. The sounds that travel through the walls, that both sides hear and that neither side ever mentions. Dim the lights if you can. Let the house go quiet around you. We begin in the drawing room just after 11, as the last lamp in the family's part of the house is carried away. The lamp leaves the drawing room just after 11. A housemaid carries it. She has done this every night for 2 years, and her hand knows the exact weight of it, the small drag of the oil shifting in the base as she lifts it from the side table. The flame pulls sideways, then steadies. She does not look back at the room. Her concern is the corridor, the stairs, and the dark she is walking into with the only light in this part of the house held out in front of her. Behind her, the drawing room goes through a change that no one is there to see. It does not happen all at once. For a few seconds, the room holds the memory of the lamp, the eye still carrying the shape of furniture, the pale rectangle of the window against the darker wall. Then that fades. The chairs are arranged for a conversation that ended hours ago. The cushions still hold the slight compression of the bodies that sat against them. A book lies open and face down on a small table, its spine strained, left there by someone who meant to come back to it and did not. The fire has been out long enough to turn cold. A grate in that state gives off a particular smell, flat and mineral and slightly dirty, the sourness of ash with no heat left in it. Not the warm smell of a working fire, just the cold one, low in the room. Somewhere above, a board settles under a footstep, then nothing. The housemaid has reached the foot of the stairs. The flame leans and rights itself as she turns. There is faint smell of hot oil close to it, and the base of the lamp is warm now against her fingers where it was cool when she picked it up. A little of the oil has worked onto her thumb and it stays there, slick, not quite wiped off on her apron. Above her the family is still awake, in the way people are awake in the last half hour before sleep. The mistress is in her bedroom, the master is in his dressing room, a daughter is reading. None of it requires the rest of the house. The walls are thick, the doors are solid. The servant stairs are on the other side of the house, and the family does not hear them. The housemaid starts up. Not the main staircase with its carpet and its polished rail. The other one, narrow, behind a door kept closed. The air in the stairwell is colder, and it moves, a thin draught coming down from somewhere above and passing her on its way down. The third step has a board that cracks loudly under any weight at all. She knows it. Her foot finds the outer edge of it without her thinking about it, and she goes up past it, and the stair stays quiet. The undressing takes longer than the dressing did. In the morning there is a shape to aim for. The dress goes on, the hair goes up, and the woman walks out into the day. At night the shape has to be taken apart, and taking apart is slower, because nothing can be pulled or rushed, and because the body underneath has been inside its clothing for 16 hours. This maid begins with the hair. There are pins in it, not a few. A head of hair dressed for a day in this house holds somewhere between 40 and 60 pins, and they have been in since before 9 that morning, and they have to come out one at a time. The maid works from the back, where she cannot see, by touch alone. Each pin is found by the small resistance it gives, drawn out along the line it went in, and set down in a shallow dish on the dressing table. One catches a strand on the way out and tugs the scalp before it gives, and the mistress's head pulls back slightly, and neither woman says anything. The sound of the room for several minutes is that small metallic note, then a pause, then another. When the pins are out, the hair comes down, and it comes down heavy. There is a smell to it when it is released, warm and close and a little stale. The smell of a scalp that has been under wool and pins all day. The maid takes up the brush. 100 strokes, every night of the mistress's adult life, while both women are silent and the dish of pins sits on the table. Then the dress. The maid stands behind her and starts on the back, where the fastenings are, where the mistress could not reach them herself, even if she had ever been expected to. Hooks first from the top, each one worked free of its eye, then the laces beneath. The maid's fingers have done this so many times that they do not need light for it, which is fortunate because the candle on the dressing table throws most of its light forward onto the mirror and very little onto the work itself. She loosens the laces from the bottom and draws them out through the eyelets in long pulls. The corset comes away last. The fabric of the shift underneath is damp along the spine and under the arms, and the smell of it is sharper than the smell of the hair, the plain, sour smell of a body that has worked inside layers all day. The mistress's skin carries the marks of it, red lines pressed along the seams, a deep crease where the lower edge has sat against her hip. She reaches a hand to the crease and presses it. Once, the way you press a place that has ached for hours without your attention. Then she lets the maid lift the nightdress over her arms. It is 11:30. The maid still has the candle to carry, the dish of pins to put away, the dress to hang and air, the corset to set out so the damp can dry before tomorrow. The mistress lies down. The maid pinches out the candle on the dressing table, and the wick smoke rises thin and bitter in the dark, and she crosses the room by the light of the one she's carrying. The master goes up at 11:15, and the valet is waiting for him. The valet has been in the dressing room since 10, with the things laid ready, and he has been there through the hour and a half between his last task and this one, because the master comes up when the master comes up. He's there when the master comes in. The undressing is short. The master stands and the valet works. There is a coat, and the valet takes it at the shoulders and draws it back and off, and it goes onto its hanger. There is a waistcoat, a few buttons down the front done by the master himself while the valet sees to the coat. The collar and the cuffs, which are separate, come away and go into the basket for the laundry. None of it resists. None of it has been laced or pinned, and it comes away in a minute or two in the order it always comes away. The boots are the one part that takes a particular effort. The master sits, and the valet takes the heel and the toe and draws the boot off with a steady pull, one and then the other, and sets them together by the door to be taken down and cleaned and brought back before morning. The master's feet, in their stockings, go onto the cold floor and then into the slippers that have been set ready. Then it is done. The master is in his nightshirt and his dressing gown, and the valet asks whether there is anything more, and there is not. The valet gathers it all up, the coat over one arm, the boots in the other hand, the collar and cuffs on top, and he goes down the back stairs with it. The boots will be cleaned tonight. The collar and cuffs will go to the laundry. The coat will be brushed and aired and hung before morning. The master stays in the warm room in his dressing gown, and the door closes, and the valet goes down. The mistress is asleep now, or close to it, in the next room. The maid is still working. The dressing room is small, and at this hour it is hers. She moves through it by the light of the one candle, and she does the things that have to be done before she can go up. The dress goes onto its hanger and onto the airing rail, turned so the damp back faces out. The pins go from the dish into the box where pins are kept. The drawer they go in sticks halfway, the way it has stuck for months, and she lifts it slightly on its runners with a movement her hand makes without her attention, and it closes. Then she puts the room back in order, and a room she has tidied several 100 times is a room she knows completely. The brush goes here, bristles down, the hand mirror here, face down, because it has always been face down. The bottles on the dressing table belong in a particular order, and the maid did not invent the order, but she maintains it, and so she is the person in the house who would notice first if a bottle were lower than it should be. One of them is a small dark bottle, the cordial the mistress takes for her nerves and for sleep, from the chemist in the town. It is going down faster this month than it went down last month. The maid knows this the way she knows the level of the oil in the lamp, because keeping track of levels is part of what her hands and eyes do all day. The glass is cold and faintly sticky where the stopper has been handled. There is a smell to it when she sets it down, sweetish, medicinal, a little sharp. She puts it back exactly where it stands, and she moves on. There is a letter on the dressing table too, refolded along its original creases, the way a letter is folded by someone who has read it more than once. The maid does not read it. She has dusted around it for 11 days. She moves the cloth around it again now, and the corner of it lifts slightly in the small wind of the cloth and settles back, and she leaves it where it lies. She wipes the dressing table. A little spilled powder has worked into the grain of the wood near the mirror and does not come up with the cloth, and she leaves that too to be done properly in daylight. What she carries out of the room is not in her wages and not in her duties as anyone would write them down. She can tell, most mornings, what kind of day it is going to be before the mistress has said a word, by whether the mistress rang for her early or let the hour go past, by how the bedclothes are pushed back, thrown or folded square, by whether the curtains are already open when she comes in, which means the mistress has been awake and standing at the window for some time. She finishes the room. She takes the candle. The dressing-room door closes behind her with the soft knock of a door she has closed 10,000 times, and the room stays as she left it, the bottle in its place, the letter on the table, the powder in the grain of the wood, dark. There is one fire in the house that is never allowed to go out, and at this hour it is the kitchen range. The kitchen maid is the one who sees to it last thing. She's the youngest of the indoor staff, and this is among the final tasks of her day. done when her hands are already tired and the rest of the kitchen has gone quiet around her. The range has burned since before 5 that morning. It has cooked 3 meals and heated every drop of hot water the house has used, and now it has to be brought down for the night without being let die, because a range that goes fully cold takes 2 hours to bring back, and the morning does not have 2 hours to spare. She works in front of the open firebox. The heat of it is still considerable on her face and forearms, a dry heat that has been pushing into the room all day, and the rest of her is cold, because the kitchen at midnight is cold everywhere the range is not. She's warm down one side and cold down the other, kneeling on stone that has never been warm in its life. The banking is done with the small coal, the slack, the dust and fragments, too poor to give a clean flame. She takes it by the shovel from the scuttle and lays it over the live fire, not all at once, but worked across the bed of red so that the heat is covered without being smothered. The good coal would burn bright and fast and be gone by 3. The slack burns slow and mean and low, and it is exactly what the night requires, which is not light and not warmth so much as survival, an ember kept findable until morning. The coal goes on, and the bright fire dims under it. The red disappears a section at a siam, and a grey crust begins to form where the new coal sits against the heat, and the light in the room drops as she works. A piece of slack slips off the edge of the shovel and onto the floor and breaks, and the dust of it goes up and catches in her throat, and she coughs once into her shoulder and keeps working. Her hands are black to the wrist. The coal dust has worked into the creases of her knuckles and under her nails, and it will not come out tonight, not with the cold water that is all there is at this hour, and she has stopped expecting it to. She closes the firebox door, but not fully. It is left open by the width of a finger, because the fire underneath still needs a thread of air to stay alive. Too wide, and the fire burns through its fuel and is grey ash by 4. Too narrow, and it starves and is dead by 3. The right gap holds the fire on the edge of going out for 7 hours without letting it cross over. She damps the flue down to match. Then she stands, and the blood comes back into her knees, and she lifts the scuttle to refill it from the coal store so that the fire that wakes the house has its fuel waiting beside it. The scuttle is heavy, and the handle is thin, and it bites a line across her fingers as she carries it. She sets it by the range. The kitchen is nearly dark now, the firebox showing only a dull line of red along the gap she left, and she takes the candle and goes. The butler does the doors last, and he does them in an order that does not change. He carries the keys on a ring, and the ring is heavy, and it has hung in his pocket every night for 19 years. He begins at the back of the house, at the scullery door, the one the deliveries come to. The lock there is stiff. The damp collects at the back of the house and works into the iron, and the key does not turn on its own. It needs a particular pull of the door toward him with the left hand while the right hand turns, and even then there is a moment of resistance before the bolt gives. His fingers are cold. The iron of the key is colder, and it has left a faint smell of metal on his thumb and forefinger that will still be there when he reaches the top of the house. The bolt goes across with a flat iron sound. He moves on. The side passage door. The garden door, where the upper half is a single pane of glass. Through it the kitchen garden is visible, the dark shapes of the beds, the wall, the cold sky above the wall. He looks at it for the length of a breath, then he turns the key, and the glass holds nothing but the reflection of his candle. He goes through the ground floor room by room, and the windows are felt rather than looked at, the catch tested with the thumb, because his eyes are not what they were and the thumb does not need light. In the library, one catch is loose in its seating, a window that has not shut true for a season, and he presses it home and it holds, and he makes the small mental note he has made about that window for weeks, and will keep making until someone is sent to it. A draught comes in under the dining room door and crosses his ankles, thin and steady, colder than the air in the room. The front door is last. Its lock is good, oiled, well kept, and the bolt slides without effort, top and bottom. There is a drop of wax on the back of his hand from the candle, gone hard now, and he works it off with his thumbnail while he stands there, and it comes away in a small curl and falls to the floor of the hall. He puts the ring back in his pocket. The weight of it settles against his leg. He crosses the hall to the stairs, and his candle goes up with him, and behind him the hall goes dark from the front door inward. By 11:30 most of the house is asleep, and the sleep is not the same on every floor. On the bedroom floor the family sleeps in warmed beds. A maid has been through each room in the early evening with a covered pan of coals, run between the sheets so the linen holds no chill by the time a body lies down in it. The mistress sleeps, the Masti sleeps. In the room at the end the eldest daughter sleeps, and the fire in her grate has burned down to a soft red that throws no real light, only a presence, a sense of the room being held at a temperature. 3 floors up, under the roof, the sleep is different. The attic rooms are where the women servants sleep, 2 and 3 to a room, in iron beds with thin mattresses. There has been no coal pan in these beds. The cold here comes down through the roof slates a few inches above the sleepers, and the rooms hold it, and the blankets are army weight and not quite enough, and the women sleep in their stockings and sometimes in their day shawls. The kitchen maid is asleep already on her side, knees drawn up, because she's been awake since before 5 and the body takes what it can. The cook is asleep. The housemaid who carried the lamp is asleep, or nearly. But the house is not empty of waking. It never is, not at any hour. In the night nursery a lamp is still burning, turned low. The nursemaid is awake in the chair beside the children's beds, not because anything is wrong, but because one of the children is small enough still to wake in the night, and the arrangement of the household is that she is the one who will be there when it does. She is awake in the particular way of someone who is not working and not resting, holding the middle of the night without filling it. And below all of them, at the bottom of the house, the scullery maid is awake and on her feet. She's 14, and she's the last one working, because the pans from the late supper were left to soak, and the soaking is done now, and the pans will not scrub themselves. The water in the scullery has gone cold and greyish, a film on the top of it, and her hands are in it to the wrist. The grease has come off the pans and onto her, a cold slick across the backs of her fingers that the cold water will not cut. She works by one candle. Above her the house rises floor by floor, the sleeping servants, the sleeping family, the warmed beds and the cold ones, and she stands at the bottom of all of it with her hands in the grey water, and she is the last sound in the house, the small wet scrape of a brush on iron, going and going. The nursemaid hears the hall clock strike 12 from 3 floors up. She is awake in the chair beside the children's beds, a shawl over her knees, the lamp turned down to a thread. The youngest child went over into deep sleep an hour ago, and has not stirred since, and there is nothing for her to do, and she does not sleep, because the arrangement that put her in this chair does not end until morning. So she sits, and she listens, because at this hour listening is most of what there is. The clock comes first, and clearest. During the day she never hears it from up here. Now its strike carries up the stairwell 12 separate notes, and between the notes the swing of it underneath steady, a sound she could not point to on a map of the house, but that reaches her anyway. Then the smaller things, the ones the clock's striking uncovers when it stops. A stair tread cracks somewhere below. One sharp report, a beam or a board giving up its heat, and it has the exact sound of a foot coming down on wood. She has sat in this chair enough nights to know there is no foot. The house contracts as it cools, and the contractions come from no fixed place, and a person new to the house would sit up at that sound, and a person who has been here longer does not. The wind is in the chimney, it rises and falls, a low sound with no edge to it, and under the nursery grate a little cold ash shifts in the draught. Down the corridor a door she cannot name moves in its frame, a soft knock, once, then held. Closer, there is the breathing of the children. 2 of them, uneven with each other, the younger one quick and shallow, and she has listened to it so many nights that a change in it would bring her out of the chair before she was fully awake. And then a sound with a hard edge from above her from the attic, a cough, not the dry single cough of someone asleep, but a longer one 3 or 4 times over, the sound of a body fighting something in the chest, and it goes on long enough that she lifts her head toward the ceiling. Then it stops. The boards up there take 1 footstep, someone turning over or sitting up, and settle. She waits a moment longer. Nothing follows it. A pipe ticks somewhere in the wall as the water in it cools. The nursemaid draws the shawl higher. The cold in the nursery has been climbing since the fire went low, the slow cold that comes down from the roof at this hour, and it has reached her hands now. She sits in it. Below her and above her the house knocks and settles and breathes, floor under floor of it, and she holds the chair until the clock tells her how much of the night is left. The child wakes a little after 1, and the waking is not dramatic. There is no cry. There is a sound first, a shift of bedclothes, a small complaint that is not quite a word, and the nursemaid is out of the chair before she has decided to be, because 2 years in this room have trained her to move at that sound, and not the louder one that would follow it. She crosses the few feet of floor. The boards are cold through her stockings. She has learned which of them are loud, and she does not think about it any more, the way she does not think about reaching for the lamp and turning it up by exactly the amount that gives light, without giving the child's eyes a reason to open fully. He is 2 years old, and he is half awake, which is the most difficult state to manage. More difficult than fully awake, and far more difficult than asleep. She lifts him. He's heavier than people expect a child that age to be, a dense, boneless weight when he is like this, and he turns his face into her neck and his skin is hot against hers, the particular damp heat of a small child who has been asleep under blankets, a heat with his sweat in it, faintly sour at the hairline. She has milk for him. It has been standing in a covered cup on the hearth since she came on duty, set close enough to the low fire to hold a little warmth and not close enough to spoil, and she has done this every night because a child who wakes is a child who will want it, and milk fetched cold from the larder at 1 in the morning means a longer waking for both of them. She tests it against the inside of her wrist. It is no more than blood warm now, the fire being almost out, but it will do. She sits with him. He drinks slowly, not from hunger, with his eyes closed, one hand opening and closing on the fabric of her sleeve. The cup is heavy, and she holds it at an angle that does not change, and her arm under his weight has begun the particular ache of holding still, the ache that is worse than the ache of working, because work moves and this does not. The fire is nearly gone. She watches it over the top of the child's head, the last of it, a few coals holding their red under a grey crust, and she does the arithmetic she does every night, which is whether to let it die or to spend 3 minutes in a little coal keeping it alive for the hours that are left. She decides to let it die. The child is warm against her and will go back into his bed warm, and the cold that is coming into the room is a cold she can sit in. He finishes. He's fully asleep again before the cup is empty, and she holds him a while longer anyway, because moving him too soon undoes the whole of it. Then she stands, the ache pulling down her arm and across her shoulder, and she lowers him back into the bed and draws the blanket up. He does not wake. She stands over him a moment, listening to his breathing settle into the deep rhythm, and then she goes back to the chair, and the milk cup sits empty on the floor beside it, where she will pick it up at dawn. The child who drank the milk at 1 is hot to the touch at 3. The nursemaid knows it before she is fully awake. She has gone back to half sleep in the chair, and some part of her stayed listening, and what reaches her is not a cry but the breathing faster than it was, with a small sound on each breath that was not there before. She is up. The lamp is turned up before her mind has caught up with her hands. His face is flushed and damp. She puts the back of her fingers to his forehead, then to his neck, and the heat of him is wrong. A dry, hard heat that pushes back against her hand. He stirs and does not properly wake. His cheeks are very red. The rest of him is pale. She does the first things fast. The top blanket comes off. She wets a cloth at the jug on the washstand, and her hand is unsteady and the jug knocks the basin and a little water goes over the edge and onto the stand, and she leaves it. She folds the cloth and lays it on his forehead. He turns his head from the cold of it, then allows it. She counts the breaths against the second hand of the small clock. The number is high. She goes to the door, across the landing, the family floor. She knocks on the mistress's door, not loud enough, and says through the wood that she is sorry that the child has a fever, that she thinks the mistress should come. The mistress comes. Quickly, a wrap over her nightdress, her hair down. Her feet are bare on the cold boards of the landing, and she does not stop for that. For a few minutes they stand either side of the same bed. They work without much speaking. The mistress feels the child's forehead. The nursemaid brings fresh water. The cloth is wrung and turned and laid back. Wrung and turned and laid back. The child sweats, and the sweat damps the front of his nightshirt, and it sticks to him. And the nursemaid changes it, working his hot, limp arms through the sleeves one at a time. The mistress lifts him against her. He is limp and hot and breathing fast, and the heat of him goes through the thin wrap and against her skin. It takes a long time. The breathing stays fast through the worst of it. The two women change the cloth and wait, and change it again, and there's nothing else to do, and they do it. By something like 4, the breathing is slower. The heat under the cloth has come down. The child has gone from fast, uneven breathing into a heavy sleep. The two women stay either side of the bed a while, watching the breaths, counting them again without saying so. Then the mistress goes back up to her room. The nursemaid is left with the child. She wrings the cloth a last time and hangs it on the rail. The spilled water is still on the washstand, and she wipes it now with the corner of the cloth. She sits down in the chair. She does not turn the lamp down, and she watches the child breathe. The mistress has been lying still for an hour, and being still has not worked. She lay down a little before 11. The maid had warmed the bed, and for the first while the sheets held that warmth, and she lay in it and waited for sleep in the way a person waits for a train they expect to come, It did not come. And now the warmth the maid put into the bed is gone, used up, and what is under her is linen at the temperature of the room, which is to say cool and faintly damp, the way all linen is faintly damp in a house this old. She turns onto her side. This is the 4th or 5th time. Each turn is a small project. The bedclothes to be lifted so they do not bind, the pillow to be reached under and reshaped, and each turn buys a minute or two of a position that feels, briefly, like the one that will work. It is not. The new side of the bed is the cool side, and her body warms it slowly, and by the time it is warm she's aware of the other things, the seam of the pillowcase under her cheek, the weight of the blankets on her hip, which is too much weight, and then a moment later when she is shifted too little. The blankets are the particular problem. There is an amount of covering that would be correct, and the bed does not contain it. With them onto the shoulder she is too warm, and a slow heat gathers along her back, and she can feel her nightdress against her. With them pushed down, she's too cool within a minute. She moves them up and pushes them down, and each time the wool drags over the sheet with a low sound, and each time it is wrong in the other direction. Her feet are cold. They have been cold since she lay down, and they have not warmed, and a body does not sleep with cold feet, and there is nothing in the bed to put them against. Down in the hall the clock strikes. She does not count it on purpose. The number arrives anyway and stays with her, and then she is listening, which is worse, because once she is listening the house is full of things to hear. The small reports of the boards, a draft working at a door somewhere. She turns onto her back and pulls the blankets higher, over her ears, and it does not shut the sounds out, and after a while she lowers them again. She turns over again. Her hair has worked loose from its night plait, and a strand of it is stuck to the side of her neck, damp, and she pushes it away and it does not stay. The pillow on this side has gone flat and warm where she has lain on it, and under her hip the bottom sheet has pulled into a ridge she has to smooth flat with her hand. She turns the pillow again. The cool side is warm before she is settled against it. The blankets are half pushed down at her feet, and she leaves them there, and she lies and waits, and the clock in the hall sounds the next hour into the dark of the room. The housemaid is mending a stocking by candlelight, sitting up in her bed in the attic, because the heel went through that morning and she has only the 2 pairs. It is a poor light to sew by. The candle is a short one down to its last inch, and she holds the stocking close to it and works the needle by the feel as much as the look. The darning stitch she has done since she was a child, over and under, drawing the wool across the hole and back. Her fingers are stiff. The attic is cold the way it is always cold at this hour, and the cold gets into the hands first, and she stops every little while and closes her fist and opens it and goes on. The wall beside her bed is an outside wall and an inside wall both. It is cold to lean against, faintly damp, the plaster gritty under her shoulder where she has pushed the pillow aside, and it carries sound. Through it, and through the floor under the bed, the house comes to her in pieces while she sews. There is the scullery maid still down at the very bottom of the house, the small far sound of a pan being moved. There is a pipe somewhere, ticking. There is the wind on the slates a few inches above her head, close, a dry rushing sound when it gusts. And there are the 2 voices. There below her, a floor down, the master and the mistress in the room under the attic. She's been hearing them since she came up. The words do not come through. What comes through is the shape, the low even run of one voice and then the other, a long stretch of the lower one, a silence, the higher one briefly. The wall gives it to her the same way it gives her the wind and the pipe. She sews, and the voices go on below her, there at the edge of her attention the whole time she works, over and under, drawing the wool across the hole and back. A marriage being talked through at 11 at night, a floor below her. She finishes the heel. She bites the wool off close because the scissors are downstairs in the workbox and she's not going down for them. The stocking is mended, not well, but enough. She sets it on the chair with the other one. Below her the two voices have stopped. She did not hear them stop. She notices only that the room under her is quiet now, and that the only sounds left are the wind and the pipe and the scullery maid's last pan, far down. She pinches the candle out. The dark comes in, and the cold with it, and she lies down with her back to the wall that brought her all of it, and she pulls the thin blanket up. In a few hours she will carry hot water down to the room below, to the people whose voices came up through her floor, and she will set it inside their door and say good morning, and neither of them will say anything, and the day will start. The scullery maid sleeps with her knees drawn up to her chest, and she has slept that way every night since the weather turned. It is something past 4. Nothing in the house is moving. No one has been left a task in this hour, and the only people inside it are the ones asleep. She is 14, and her room is the coldest sleeping room in the house, the smallest, the one at the end with one wall against the outside, and a window that does not quite seat in its frame. She has the bed nearest that window. There's a gap at the sill, and through it the night air comes in, not as a draught with any force to it, just a slow, steady presence of outside air that has made the corner of the room she sleeps in the same temperature as the corridor. She has done what can be done about it. She sleeps in her stockings. She sleeps in her day shawl over her nightgown, the wool of it pulled close. The blanket she has is army weight and thin, and she has learned to fold the foot of it under so that it makes a double thickness over her feet, which is the part of her that wakes her if she does not. The pillow is bolstered against the wall so her head does not touch the plaster, which is cold enough at this hour to feel wet. None of it is a solution. All of it together makes the cold bearable enough to stay asleep in, and that is all it is meant to do. Her body works at it even now. Asleep she has drawn herself smaller, knees up, arms folded in against her chest, her hands pushed flat between her thighs where the warmth holds. She did not decide on it, and is not aware of it. Her breathing is slow and even and shallow. A small cloud of it shows faintly each time, the air of the room cold enough now to make her own breath visible over the bed, rising and thinning and gone. The cold is not coming into the room any more. It is simply in the room, the way the furniture is in the room. It is in the water jug on the washstand, which has a skin of ice across the top of it that will still be there when she breaks it with her fingers at 5:30. It is in the floorboards she'll put her bare feet on. It is in the clothes folded on the chair which will be cold to put on. The particular cold of cloth that has sat all night in a room like this. She has perhaps an hour and a half left. She does not know this, asleep, but her body keeps the time anyway, and it will bring her up out of sleep within a few minutes of when she needs to be up, cold and stiff and not rested enough into the dark. She is the first one the morning calls, for now she is still under it. Her knees drawn up, her breath showing and gone, the ice forming its skin on the jug a foot from her head, and she sleeps, and the dark holds, and the window stays grey-black in its frame. The scullery maid wakes at 5:30. There's no one to call her, and there is no clock in the attic room. She wakes anyway every working morning at close to the same time, and she comes up out of sleep stiff and cold, and she is sitting up before she's decided to. She does not lie there. She is up, standing on the cold boards in her stockinged feet. The room is black. The window is a grey square and nothing else. She dresses fast by feel, the clothes off the chair cold against her as she puts them on, the cold of cloth that has held the room's temperature all night, and she does not stop at that because stopping makes it worse. The water in the jug has a skin of ice on it. She breaks it with 2 fingers, a thin crust giving way, and she washes her face and hands in the water under it, which is barely above freezing. The cold of it is a hard shock. Her face dries rough on the towel. She takes the candle and goes down. The back stairs are steeper than the family stairs, and she goes down them fast, one hand on the wall, the candle in the other, her feet finding the steps in a rhythm learned by repetition. 3 flights. The house gets no warmer as she descends. The kitchen, when she reaches it, is cold and dark and full of the dead smell of last night's fire gone out. But the range is not fully out. It was banked hours ago by the kitchen maid, and somewhere under the grey crust of ash there is still a core of red. The scullery maid kneels at the firebox. She opens it. She rakes the dead ash down through the grate, and a smell of cold cinder comes up, and she works fast, finding the live coal under the dead, the few inches of red that survived the night. She lays kindling against it. She lays the small coal on. She does not wait to see if it will catch the slow way. She bends to it and blows low and steady into the red, and her own breath brings it up, the red spreading under the new coal, a thread of flame, then more. The fire takes. The light of it grows in the firebox and pushes the dark of the kitchen back a little, and a first heat begins, very small against her face and hands. She does not stop to feel it. She is already up off her knees and lifting the kettle, and she carries it to the scullery and sets it under the tap, and the water comes out cold over her hands as it fills. Above her, the house is still asleep, every bed of it, and the kettle is heavy as she carries it back, and she sets it on the range over the fire she has just brought up out of the ash. The housemaid carries the fires up through the house at 5:45, and she does it in the order the rooms will be needed. She has a box for it. It holds what each grate will want: kindling split small, paper, a measured amount of coal, and on top of that the small brushes and the cloth for the ash, and she has filled the box downstairs at the kitchen range. From the fire the scullery maid brought up an hour ago. She carries pieces of that fire upward, room by room, in a covered iron pan that holds live coal. The morning room first. The family will come down to it, and it has to be warm before they do, which means the fire has to be not just lit but established past the early stage, throwing real heat by the time the first of them opens the door. She kneels at the grate. The ashes of last night's fire are cold and grey, and she clears them first, raking them down, sweeping the hearth, and the fine ash lifts and she breathes a little of it, and her cloth comes away grey. She lays the new fire, paper, kindling, coal. She tips a few coals from the iron pan into the heart of it, and the paper catches, and she stays on her knees a moment to be sure the kindling has taken before she goes on. She does not wait for it to build. She has other rooms. The dining room next, the same sequence, the cold ashes out, the new fire laid and lit and left, then the stairs, then the bedroom floor. She goes into the mistress's room. She knows how to open the door so it does not sound. The room is dark and holds the warmth of a person who's been sleeping in it for hours, a closer air, and she crosses to the grate by a path she knows in the dark and kneels there. The clearing of the dead ashes is the difficult part because cold ash moved with the rake is not silent, and she does it slowly, breaking the work into small quiet movements with pauses between them. Behind her the mistress sleeps. The maid lays the fire and lights it, and the flame comes up, and the light of it moves on the walls of the room, and she gathers her box and her pan and goes out, and the door makes its small sound and no more. She has perhaps 6 fires to light in all, and the last of them is laid as the first of them is settling into real heat. Behind her, down the stairs, the morning room she started with is warm now, properly warm, the fire established and steady. She's 2 floors up with the cold ash of another grate in front of her, the box lighter than it was, and she goes on to the next room. The drawing room has spent the night as a cold, dark space full of stopped objects. The chairs still stand where the conversation left them. The cushions still hold the shapes of the bodies. The book is still face down on the small table. The grate is full of the cold remains of the fire 8 hours dead. The housemaid comes in a little after 6, and this is the room the lamp was carried out of at the start of the night, and she has come to take it apart and set it back the way the daytime needs it. The fire first, because the fire takes longest to become useful. She kneels at the grate and clears it, the dead ashes raked down and swept out, the hearth brushed, and the cold, sour smell of old ash comes up as she works, and then goes into her cloth and her apron. She lays the new fire and lights it from the coal in her pan, and she leaves it to build, the curtains next. They have been closed all night, and she draws them back, and the grey early light comes into the room for the first time since yesterday. The light shows the room mid-task, half night and half day. It also shows the dust, and she works along the surfaces with the cloth, the mantel, the small tables, the window-sill where a night's fine dust has settled. The chairs go back. Each one is lifted, not dragged, and set down on the small dents its own feet have pressed into the carpet over years. The cushions are lifted and turned and pressed back into shape under her hands, and she squares them and sets them back. The book on the small table she closes. She does not mark the place. She sets it square to the edge of the table with the other things. She makes a last pass through the room, a curtain not hanging straight, a fire iron out of its stand. She finds the small things and sets them right. Then she goes, and she takes the cloth and the ash and the pan of coal with her. The fire is burning, the light is in, the chairs are placed, the dust is off the sills, and the grate is clean, and the cushions hold no shape but their own. The mistress wakes a little after 8, and the room she wakes into is warm. She does not wake all at once. She comes up slowly, the way a person wakes when nothing is requiring them to, and she lies in the warmth of the bed for a while without moving. The room is light. The curtains have been drawn back, and the fire in the grate is burning steadily, and the chill is gone from the air. When she rises, there is warm water for her, in the jug on the washstand, at the temperature warm water should be, and she washes in it. Her clothes have been seen to. The dress she will wear has been brushed and laid ready. The grate has been cleared and laid and lit. The room has been dusted. She moves through it, and notices none of it, and goes down. The breakfast room is warm. The table is laid. The food is hot, and the coffee is hot, and the newspaper has been ironed and is at her husband's place. She sits down to it, and the day begins for her. There is no ash in the grates. There is no cold in the rooms. By 8:30 the family is in its day, and the house around them is warm and clean and entirely in order, and they move through it the way they move through it every morning. It is morning now. In the house we have been inside all night. The family is in its day. The fires are lit. The work of the night is finished, and the people who did it are still working, because in this house the night and the morning run on into each other without a break. We have been through one night of it, one ordinary night, from the carrying out of the last lamp to the carrying up of the first hot water, and what there was to see was not large. No one in this house did anything on this night that they had not done many times before. A fire was banked and brought back. Water was carried up cold and carried up warm. A child woke and was settled. A woman lay awake and then slept. Doors were locked, and the night was let into the rooms, and then taken out of them again before anyone upstairs could see that it had been there. That is all it was. A night in a house, and the house kept through the dark hours by the people who keep it. You have been awake for it, or nearly. That was the idea. To lie still in the warm and let one slow ordinary night move past you, the cold stone and the banked coal and the sounds through the walls, none of it asking anything of you, all of it long over. The house is quiet again. The lamp has gone up the stairs. The grate holds its low red. Somewhere a clock is marking the hours, and there is no one who has to count them. You can let it go now. The fires are seen to, the doors are locked. The house is warm, and the morning, when it comes, will come whether you are awake to meet it or not. Sleep well, the night will keep.